Hi guys, today I'll be talking about classical conditioning. Ivan Pavlov was born on September 14, 1849. During the 1990s, Pavlov experimented with dogs, studying the relationship between salivation and digestion. This experimentation is what led him to classical conditioning. By applying stimuli to animals in a variety of ways, using sound, visual, and tactile stimulation, he was able to make animals salivate whether they were in presence of food or not, a phenomenon he called conditioned reflex. So basically what classical conditioning is when organisms learn to associate one stimulus with another. I'll be going over some key concepts of classical conditioning. The first key concept is unconditioned stimulus. Unconditioned stimulus is a stimulus that elicits a response without conditioning. Next is unconditioned response, an automatic response elicited by the unconditioned stimulus. Moreover, is conditioned stimulus, a neutral stimulus that when paired with an unconditioned stimulus elicits a similar response. Next is conditioned response, a response that is learned by pairing the originally neutral conditioned stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. Acquisition. The acquisition phase is the consistent pairings of the conditioned stimulus, which is the bell, and the unconditioned stimulus, the food that produces a conditioned response, which would be the salivation. The example, this phase occurs when the dog begins to salivate at the sound of the bell. Conditioning occurs more rapidly when the food follows the bell by half a second. Next is extinction. The extinction phase is when the conditioned response no longer occurs after repeated pairings without the unconditioned stimulus. The dog's response to a bell can be extinguished by repeatedly presenting the bell without the food. The dog has not completely forgotten the association between the bell and the food. If the experimenter waits a day, the dog may have a spontaneous recovery of the conditioned response and begin to salivate again. Generalization. Generalization occurs when there is a small difference in the presenting stimulus and the original conditioned stimulus. If Pavlov's dog heard of a bell of a similar tone, the dog would still salivate, whereas if it heard a bell with a different tone, it may or may not salivate. Discrimination is the opposite of generalization. Discrimination happens when a conditioned response does not occur when there is a difference between the presented stimulus and the original conditioned stimulus. If Pavlov's dog heard a bell with a different tone and was not awarded the unconditioned stimulus, which is the food, the dog would learn not to salivate to a second tone. Now, in real life, we can see that high school students are also conditioned to the bell that they change periods to. As soon as you hear the bell, the students raise up and change classes.